everybody, it's Joel from The Board Game Mechanics. Today I'm taking a look at an older game, but I'm going to start doing more of this because I think there's some older games out there that just need more love. And this is one of them. It's called Airlines Europe. Real quick about the Board Game Mechanics before I get into this. We are a gaming podcast. We're fairly new. You may not know of us. If you don't, check out bgmechanics.com. Go find our podcast, all of our social media presence, and our video stuff there. Anyway, enough of a plug for us. Let's get back to this game. This game is called Airlines Europe. It used to be called Union Pacific, and I think Union Pacific is still an active company. They said, please don't do that. Alan Moon said, you know what? I need to make some changes to this game anyway and polish it up. So we'll give it a new name anyway. So the Airlines Europe name kind of feels weird. I wish they would have found a better way to call it like airline tycoon or airports, or I don't know. Like the Airlines Europe feels like it's I don't know, maybe he was trying to do Ticket to Ride Europe. It was at the same time as that, but it feels like maybe they should, I don't know, just because this game is like an addition or a second version or something, it feels like of a game that really didn't come out. I mean, Airlines is hard to find, and it came out a long time ago and people don't have it. I wish the name was a little different, but anyway, I'm kind of ranting already. Let's get to the table and take a look at this game before we get into anything else about it. And then I'm going to come back here and tell you why I think it's great, why I feel like maybe you're missing out if you don't know about this game. Anyway, to the table without any further ado. This is Airlines Europe. This is basically a two-player game setup, and based on player count, you take out certain colors. So in this game, we took out for a two-player game, we took out yellow, violet, and blue. With a 5-player game, you would leave all the colors in of the different airlines. With a 4-player game, you would take out the yellow, and a 3-player game, you would take out yellow and violet. So a cumulative thing, it kind of gets more and more there. That doesn't mean a lot to you yet. So let's get through this, talking about what's happening here. Basically, we are placing airlines across Europe, and we're buying licenses to fly between two cities with an airline. So it's kind of like a route building thing, but it's got some economic stuff to it too. So let's start talking about here the setup. So you can see these little, they don't stick out a ton, but we have these little, like, I don't know, they're just generic game pieces on the map. That's the home city of all these airlines. And then down at the bottom here, we have a stock track. And so these are the starting values of all these stocks. So we place them on their home cities, which you can see there. There's a red dot, so we put the red one there. And then down here, there's like a little color coordination thing that really helps us to match that up. That's the board setup. Over here, we have our cards. So we have a market of cards. This is going to look familiar. This is an Alan Moon game. So we have our draw pile, and then we have 5 cards there that are available to select. We also have our money here. So at any rate, we have that set up. Now, what's our player setup? You start off with 8 cards in your hand. So let's take a look at these 8 cards. These 8 cards are just going to be the airlines that we're able to play with at the beginning of the game. And this would be like a hypothetical hand that you could have started off with. I think I'm going to go ahead and set these down. These are hidden knowledge cards, but I'm going to go ahead and put these down on the table here so that way we can just kind of like work with them a little better. This is going to be a little confusing because this is normally where I would put down my stocks that I own. So I would normally have this in my hand. It would be my hand of cards. I think you get that. So I started off with 3 of the Flying is Simply Fun stocks, 1 of the Days of Flying Wonder, 1 for FF Flies, and 1 White Winds. It's Fun to Fly Again, and Jolly Roger. So these are the 8 stocks I start with. I need to pick 2 of these and put them down on the table. Well, I'm going to say just some strategy here. Based on what I see up there in the draw piles, if I put down stocks that are out there, people might try and block me from taking them. So I do see the green, the orange, and the red up there, and I have those in my hand. I might want to try and keep those secret. So I might want to play out this white card. Oh, there's a white one out there too. I definitely want to put this one down because no one else has that, or there's none of those cards available, and I can just burn that out of my hand. I don't care about it really. I'm not trying to make a set collection with it. More this is going to make sense as I talk about the actions. The white is up there, the green and the yellow are up there, and the red. So a lot of these are there. This set of 3 I want to hang on to because sets are really important to have in this game. So let's not get rid of that yet. Let's just go ahead and put this one down. So I'm going to start off with 2 stocks down in front of me. Take these cards back into my hand. This is my starting hand of cards. And so now we've got setup basically done. I start off with $8 million too. 8 million euros, not dollars. I'm trying not to be as America-centric. And this is Europe after all. So back to the game here. I have basically 4 choices on my turn. So this is how Alan Moon does games. He does games where he gives you choices on your turn to do things. And you do one of them, and then your turn's over. The first choice I have, and these little player guides here, wherever I placed one at, are really actually helpful. Here's one. These player guides are actually really helpful for us to just kind of follow along with. But I'm just going to show you that these exist, and they kind of remind you of what to do. And now I'm just going to talk about them. So choice A is going to be, I'm going to buy into a couple of airlines and put licensing rights onto a couple of places. So the way how this looks is, if you look over here, I'm going to show you this box up here. So this box holds all the airplane goodness in there. So all those little plastic pieces in there are airplanes. Worth noting, I think you should see that there are different numbers of airplanes in there. So some of them have very few airplanes, some have quite a few. And while on that note too, we can look here, that 8 means there's 8 shares of this company available in the game. So we're gonna go ahead and come back down here to the board. So looking at the board, let's go ahead and zoom down a little bit here. So looking at the board here, we see there are numbers and there's things between cities. So between these 2 cities, in order to own the rights to have a connection there, I need to pay money. I need to pay money to put down a plane and basically say that I own the licensing rights for my plane, my airline that I'm investing in, to land planes in that city from the city that it's connected to. We need to start at the home hubs though. So this red airline starts at Paris, and I always have to take the lowest numbered route. So this one, I would take a red airplane, and the colors in this game are terrible. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's my biggest critique, is that the colors just they're too similar and they don't stick out. So I'm sticking an airplane there. I paid $3 million, took an airplane. This is all action A. This is one of my choices. Paying $3 million, put an airplane there. And then I have a choice of putting down a second airplane if I'd like to. And I think I would like to. I think I'd like to pay $3 million and put down another. So now I've made a capital investment into this company of $6 million. And so I go down here to the stock track and see the red there? He's going to go up 6 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that matters because if we look at this stock track, whenever the market card comes out, which we'll talk about here in a minute, I'm going to get, if I have a majority in any of these stocks in this shaded area here, I'm going to collect 3 points. And then second place is going to get 2 and then 1. So I want to push these up as high as I can because, let's go ahead and pan over. Look how high these get. We eventually get to the point where I'm going to be collecting just a pile of points if I own the majority in those stocks. So that's the other big if, right? How do I own a majority in these stocks? Well, I don't own any stocks in this airline. I have no red. I don't own any red. Why would I put red down? Well, if you remember my hand, I have a red card right here. Plus, whenever I do the placement of airplanes down, whenever I do a capital investment, I get to take a card from the pile. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out. So I get to take one of these cards. I'm going to take this red card because, if you'll remember, I already had a red card in there, and I just invested in red. But now, if that dividend, or whatever you want to call it, paid out right now, I wouldn't get anything because on the table, the only stocks that I'm invested in are the brown and the white. Okay? So I may have the majority on the brown and the white, but I have nothing in the red. Nothing. Okay? So that didn't help me a ton yet. So that was the first action you can take. Put down airplanes, pay the money that you need to pay, and then take cards. The second one is, okay, I'm going to run out of money real quick here, right? Because I basically put down a lot of money there just to invest in that. I mean, I made red much more valuable, but I put a lot of money down on that. So I need to gather some money somehow. So how am I going to do that? Well, this doesn't make sense thematically, but it makes sense mechanically in the game for fun. I need to sell off some shares of stock or show that I own some stock, or I don't know exactly how this works, but it doesn't work in real life, but it works in the game. So I have a choice here. I have a few choices here. So I own these stocks, right? And these stocks, I can do something here. I can sell 2 unique stocks, 2 different stocks, and I can get $2 million per stock. Or I could put down any set of any number of stocks that I have. Well, look at this. I do have 3 stocks here that match. So I could put these 3 down and I would get $6 million. Or I could put these 2 reds down and get $6 million. Or I could put 2 stocks that don't match. I could put this green and this yellow down and they don't match, but I get $4 million. Well, right now I'm not hurting for money too bad. And I need to burn these somehow at some point. So I might decide I want to put these 2 down. So now I'm invested into those 4 stocks and I'll get $4 million. Okay. And so then my hope is that before one of the scoring cards pops around, which I'm going to talk about here again in a second, that I could get many of these stocks down. So I don't want to have cards sitting in my hand too long because they don't help me. They just don't. Another thing that you can do, the third choice you have on your turn, is that you can go up here, and we're going to look up at our friend Air Abacus. Air Abacus is this unique stock that doesn't appear. It's like a research lab or airline that just isn't present in Europe or something. But you can buy shares of Air Abacus, and it scores based on this chart that's upside down, poor design. But based on that chart that's upside down, it scores. And it scores a lot of points. It scores enough points that if you are the only person who invests in Air Abacus and everyone else ignores it, you will get, in the course of a game, 25 points just from owning Air Abacus stock. But the way how you acquire Air Abacus is you have to ditch cards in order to get that. Well, you don't have to ditch matching cards. It would make no sense to ditch matching cards, so it doesn't make any sense for me to do it. But I could. If I had some cards that I don't own stock in, or they're just useless cards because I have a majority in them and no one else could catch me, I can ditch 1 card for 1 share of Air Abacus, or 3 cards for 2 shares of Air Abacus, which it's an important enough thing that you really want to do it. The final thing you can do is sometimes money is hard in this game, and it's kind of a choice you don't want to make unless you absolutely have to, but you can just take $8 million from the bank on your turn. So that's a way, like a bailout kind of, a way to kind of be able to, get some money if you're pinched on money. So something else I want to mention that people have a hard time with. This game feels a little like Ticket to Ride in some ways. It feels a little like Acquire in some ways. But a couple things on the board here with the play of the airplanes that I want to mention before I wrap up here is that this red plane here has filled this whole thing. I'm saying by putting a red airplane here, this whole thing is connected. And by putting a red airplane here, that whole thing is connected. So now I cannot stick red airplanes in there anymore because it doesn't make any sense. I already have that whole thing claimed for red. I could go here. I could go anywhere else. Again, though, I have to take the lowest valued one. The other thing I want to mention are these little cardboard guys here. You probably didn't even see that those were separate things. They just seem like they're part of the board. Some of the airlines, based on the starting values down here and the number of airplanes available, they have this unique thing where they may not be the most valuable airline or have the most airplanes, but they can get this bonus. So there's a +6 on this one. If you look at it, it says +6. So it's going to go up 6 spots in value if you can connect that route. So if this airline goes from London to Athens, it's going to make the value of that stock jump up 6. And that's starting down here in Athens and working our way back up to London. So if I wanted to try and do that, I would need to get the orange airplanes, which look very similar to the red airplanes, and start putting them down and get that connected. And then when I did connect that, I would take this off the board to show that it's been done and move that up 6 value. Other planes can get into these networks as well. So just because the red's there doesn't mean that green can't go there. So I go to the next lowest value and put green there, But green would have to start at its home base and work its way down there. I'm showing you an illegal move. It would look more like this over time. As we start playing the game more, Stockholm would go there, Stockholm to that area there, and then there, and then to make that legal, I would have to have one here. And they would have to go down in the order I did, not this one. This one would be the last one I placed. So eventually that's going to happen. Now there's only 1 spot left here. So let's say that, I don't know, this brown airline, it really wants to get across the country too. So I don't know. And the gray one wants to get across to get to the brown one. So the gray one may want to start thinking about, hey, let's start putting down some gray planes. So they have to start again at their home base. They start there. They take the lowest one available, go there. And this is just all happening over the course of the game. When the game's finished, this thing's just covered in airplanes. It's really cool. Once you run out of airplanes in the box, so if we look at the box again real quick, the box does show us that there are very few airplanes in some of the colors. Some of them have a ton of airplanes. Some of them have very few. And it's just again, a balancing thing. It's asymmetrical. These airlines are all a little different. The number of shares they have, the number of planes they have to put down. all kind of neat. So how do we score points? How does the game work? Well, there's this card here, and this card here is the I have it upside down there. This is the time to score card. It's going to pop up 3 times. On the 3rd time it pops up, the game's over. But every time that pops up, we're going to look and see who has majority stock ownership in each of these colors, and they're going to get, first place gets the first amount of points, second place, so on and so forth. So it's important to own a lot of different stocks, but you want to have majorities in a few. You're trying to balance that with making your airlines worth more money. Just a really cool game of just balancing things. Pretty simple. Like, you can teach this game to just about anybody. Very accessible. Very cool game. I think now we've got a pretty good understanding of how to play. I'm going to go back to the studio now and tell you. Okay, so this game is really good. Really, really good. And I'm doing some of these older game like playthroughs or reviews because if you're somebody who came to tabletop gaming recently, I'm talking since like maybe 2014, 2012 even, you may not be super aware of some of these older games. You may not be aware of this kind of a game. And this is one that was really a great game in its day, and it still is a great game. And I just don't see it getting much appreciation or love. And so I feel like it's an awesome game to bring into any gaming group because it's just got some really positive things about it. I don't know. I think you got a feel for how the game plays in that video there and the gameplay part. Let's just get into what I think about it and why I feel like it is good, okay? First off, right off the bat, we're going to say that there's an amazing level of accessibility to this game. This is a game that you can teach to anybody. My 66-year-old dad loves this game, and this is one of the few games that when I break it out at Christmas, and he hasn't played it since last Christmas, he remembers the rules for the most part. It just makes sense to him. It makes sense to a lot of people, and it's a fun game. And then a lot of those games that are simple and people remember them, and they're like play with family members type games, you get tired of playing them as a gamer because you're like, do we Catan again? I mean, like, okay, I mean, if that's what you guys really want to play. But I mean, like, Catan's a fine game, but I think we all got tired of it at one point, probably. And this game to me isn't one that I'm getting tired of. It's one that I continue to enjoy, and I think it's just as good of an economic game as you're going to find. And I'm jumping, my points are out of order here a little bit, but I think this is better than Acquire to me. It's up there with Stockpile as far as like a stock type game. I think it's just as good of an economic kind of simpler economic game that you're going to find for sure. Just really love it. This has great potential too to be the next steps game. So this is the one that, like, I just said in one of my recent reviews that the River is my new go-to gateway game because it introduces worker placement and a gateway package. And I'm going to stick with that. This is still my go-to gateway plus. Like, this is my next thing that I would introduce people to. And it might be even better with the River as their gateway instead of like Ticket to Ride, because you're going to say, here's a bunch of new things that you can learn about gaming. But I do think this is like that next step. You kind of got that there's more to board gaming, that there can be complex decision making, and it's not just rolling die and moving. You know, this is that next game that you might introduce people to, maybe even on the same game night as that first gateway game. It's just not very complex, and it's still very good. So I think it's just got the potential to be that next game that you play. This is an older game, but it's still widely available. I believe if you jump on Amazon.com right now, you could go buy a copy at under MSRP price, which is hard to say for a lot of the better old games. Those old games, they just don't get reprints because we're really interested in doing the next new thing or the next better thing. And this game hasn't had another kind of similar game come out for it. It's kind of its own thing. I haven't seen oh man, this game got fired by this because it implements this thing better. It just kind of does its own thing. And this is another one that if you look at a lot of people who've been gaming for a while, including me, and some of the guys that just been doing the video reviews for a while, we're going to have this one in our top 30 games or so. I mean, this is just a good game. It has a lot of fun to it. You can see even in my stock photo I use for my background, right there it is, right above my shoulder, like right here. See that? It sits on my shelf. It's out and in the open and ready to go at all times, just because I do love this game that much. In my top 30, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty positive it's in my top 30, if not top 20. So a game that I've really had a lot of success and good experiences playing it. And then even just setting it up to just do the rules explanation, I got the itch to play this game. Just because it feels like a race, it just gets you like involved in this game. It's just really, really fun. And I do enjoy it just a ton. The only cons on this one are the following. The color selection on this game and the insert. And these are both just relics of the era where this game was produced, okay? I feel like in the era where this game was produced, the only plastic bits that you could get in games were those base colors, like the eight pack of crayons from Crayola type colors. Since then, we've come out with all kinds of different shades of pastels and hues of different things. This game, though, however, suffers because the red and the orange are almost indistinguishable at times, depending on the light in your room. It's so hard to distinguish those two. And it's almost to the point where I think I might try and spray paint with red spray paint, matte finish spray paint, my red planes, because then it will at least be matte finish and shiny finish airplanes out there. But they're very, really, really similar colors. And then if you're colorblind, you're messed up. You can't play this game. There's no symbols on the planes. There's no real way to distinguish. You have to be able to distinguish those colors. And I don't think I'm colorblind, but I have some difficulty in determining colors that are really similar, especially as I get older. So like dark navies and blacks, I think everybody has problems with, but that orange and that red, my eyes aren't great at determining them. Sometimes it takes me just an extra little second to be like, is that a red or an orange there? And then you kind of have to maybe see if it's connected to the orange or red home base, at times. It's not terrible, but it is a thing. The other thing, too, is the insert in this game. This is one that I feel like if the insert were produced today, you'd have removable trays inside the main insert. That way you could have the airplanes out on the table and not have to have the whole insert out on the table. I think it'd be really cool if Game Trays or somebody came up with an insert for this one. I'd buy it. Or if Rio Grande Games was like, you know what? You are right. Those things that you're saying are legitimate. There was an expansion for this game too. So let's roll the expansion up and the base game into one thing and come out with, deluxe editions are overdone, but this is one that I think would just be, it would go over gangbusters. So maybe make those colors a little bit different, more distinguishable. And then the way how the colors correspond to cards even at times is kind of tough. Like, is this the white card or is this the gray card? So maybe just minimizing that design of the cards or having like a little swatch of the base color on the card would be awesome too. So those are the things that are really like bad about this game. But other than that, all the rest of the stuff makes this game just great. Okay. So here's something new I'm doing now. This is the first video I'm doing this in. I'm kind of giving a scale to these. I'm rating them on a few things. I feel like I come up with a rating overall and you guys don't understand exactly why I came up with that rating. It's just a subjective, my opinion, here's what it is. I'm trying to make it a little less that way. So I gave this one an accessibility rating of wide because this game is a game that you can play with anybody. You can play it with, like, seriously anybody. I think 6-year-olds could figure this game out. Honestly, I think they may need a little help the first few turns, but they're going to figure it out. A bright 6-year-old, definitely an 8-year-old. I played this one with my son when he was 8. So, I think it's something that a lot of people could play of a lot of age ranges. It's an interesting, fun game for older players too, or older people who like enjoyed Monopoly and stuff when they were kids, but now they're like our parents or something like that. It's something that they really enjoy, or I guess maybe not even the age thing, but just people who haven't been into gaming and they just are unaware of what's going on with gaming. They're able to play this game and enjoy it. Theme. This is for everybody. There's nothing in this game that's going to be like, oh, I can't believe that this thematic element's in there. Or, oh, this is some art that I wouldn't really want my little tiny child seeing. This is one that I don't think the theme's going to be a problem for anyone. It'll be okay for everybody. The fun factor in this game, I love it. It's a 4.5 out of 5. It's not zany, wackadoo fun that is just over the top. Like a game that I would say is a 5 out of 5 just on the fun factor is like maybe Dogs of War or something like that. This one's not quite there where you're just like, oh man, I'm just interacting and having a lot of fun with people. But it is up there. It's a lot of fun. Replayability, the board stays the same. The cards you get are random. That randomizes the game a little bit. But the replayability is a 4 out of 5. This is one that you're not going to play every weekend. Maybe you will for a while when you first get it. But this is a game that you will keep in your collection because it is so good. And it does feel good to play it 3 times a year, one of those kinds of games, and do that for 10 years plus, the design and the art on this one, I give a 3 out of 5 because the color selections on this are just terrible. The map's fine. The routes are easy to figure out. The insert's fine for what it is. And actually you can set this one on its side. As long as the box is nice and closed and held compressed, all the planes will stay in their spots. But this one it's fine on the design. 3 out of 5. If the color selection were better, there's definitely room that they could improve on this one. So where do I end up with this one on my final rating? Well, I'm going to give this one a 4.5 out of 5, which is crazy because The highest rating I gave it on there was a 4.5. But I think the fact that the theme is for everybody and it's so accessible, and that fun factor plays so strongly into this game being so strong, I'm going to give it the 4.5 out of 5. I do love this game. That would translate into a 9 out of 10 on a 10-point scale. I mean, I'm not trying to like dumb down my doubling it, but I mean, I do think I have it at a 9 out of 10 on Board Game Geek as well. At any rate, it is Board Game Mechanics accepted. That 4.5 out of 5 wrenches. And I do really just love this game. I think it's a great game. There's not much more to say about it. Do you have any questions about it? Do you have any comments about it? Leave one below in the video here. Also, hook up with us over at Facebook, over on our Twitter, Instagram. We've got all the social medias going, you know? So if you want to just connect with us, we love having fans. We're huge fans of our fans. So come connect up with us and just say hi. Just really enjoy connecting with you guys. And that's it, guys. I've been Joel, and keep gaming.